and welcome back to Traffic Talks. I hope you're doing well, and this podcast is basically a follow-up to last week's episode where we basically talked about finding out where we were, looking back on the past few months and how we've progressed as human beings, what we achieved, what we didn't, and how to just accept that. This episode is how we move past that and how we realize old habits have actually disappeared or changed, or how we have progressed to a point where we actually forget we used to do certain things. That is what this one is all about. Like I said, today's podcast is more of looking forward as opposed to last week's looking back. And one of the things is sometimes we get so caught up in, and I really hate this phrase, the new norm, that we actually forget how things used to be. One very simple example that I think we all can relate to is when, as a child or even like a teen, we used to get a new item of clothing. And I don't know if this is just me or not, but when you get like a new item of clothing or shoe or jeans or t-shirt or something, you wear it so much that you actually take a step back and it's like, this is my favorite shirt. I wear this all the time. What did I even used to wear before I got the shirt? The realization is so crazy. And that essentially encompasses what we're talking about today. That little anecdote was courtesy of my, I think, 12-year-old brain. Anyway, moving on. Sometimes we get so caught up in things, me obviously, that we tend to forget how things used to be. For example, I used to think back just to last year when I was broke and unemployed and my day was spent trying to find a new job. You know, I had my routine where I would go with my mom, drop my sister off, come home, look for work, go with her to the shop, get groceries, grab my sister, come back home, look for more work, help with supper, look for more work, go sleep, rinse and repeat. You know, that was what I did day in, day out. Now I'm working my 9 to 5, well, 8 to 5, and I've got my things going on. And I realized that I used to waste so much time because I used to roll out of bed at 5 to 8, put on my computer, start my day in PJs. And as the day went on, I would slowly get dressed, slowly clean up, slowly do this. And it was just, looking back, it was like, whoa. And now it's like I get up early, I get done, I exercise, I eat, I'm dressed for the day. I've got so many things that I'm doing that I was just like, I forgot I used to roll out of bed and do that. That is just the new thing that I forgot I used to do. But there are other things where, like with people, the one example I can give is my grandfather. He passed away a few years ago, and whenever we used to drive past this one road that led to his house, I remember once actually being in the car with my family. It was like, let's go visit Pa quickly. You know, we're right here. And then it's like, oh wait, he's gone. You know, we can't just drive to his house and visit him. And that was a heart-stopping realization that I actually forgot he passed away because he was such a vital part of my life that it's like, this is part of the routine. We go visit him here. We do it this time. We in that routine. To the point that I actually forgot that he had passed away. And a few months after that, I dropped my mom off at the airport and he lived not too far from there. And I was so caught up in things that I didn't realize until my mom came back. That I was like, there was one time that I drove past and didn't think that my grandfather was alive. So it's like I forgot that he was gone. And it's a weird example, I know, but that's just the closest thing. Like I forgot that he existed and that I had this urge to go visit him. That's the title of this episode, and it's inspired by the song of Taylor Swift. In the song, she sings about she forgot that this person existed and it finally didn't bother her for once. Sometimes when you are in a relationship, having someone who's constantly in your life and then they suddenly just cut ties and leave can be difficult. When it's you doing it, there is some sense of finality. Like in the previous episode where I said, say goodbye to the person, thank them for what they've done, but then, be like, we can't do this. We need to just move on and cut this off where it is. If you have that kind of closing conversation, it's easier to move on from. But sometimes like a messy breakup or a bad fight or something like that separates your friendship can affect you to the point of, something happening and being like, I need to tell this person this happened. And then as you go for your phone, you're like, wait, we aren't friends anymore. Like those kinds of moments. And that can be very difficult to deal with. So thinking of this person can actually bring such a nostalgia to you, but also pain, because it's like you just want to connect with this person and then you realize they aren't in my life anymore. Like that sucks. But I think the bonus is you aren't wasting your time on people who aren't investing in you and you in them, because it's not worth it to be in a relationship with someone who isn't in a relationship with you, if that makes any kind of sense. You need to put in what you get out, and you can't give from an empty cup. So you need to fill yourself, have other people that fill you, and then you can share that joy going forward. I mean, just the opening lyrics of her song, she talks about how many days did I spend thinking about how you did me wrong. With the burning coal example from the previous one, you holding on to this grudge, you keep thinking about this person all the time. Cut them off, cut their negativity off, because it's seeping away from your life. And that's not good for you. So sometimes it's better to just, like I said, cut that ish off and move on. And even if it hurts, you'll eventually get past it. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it might just happen that one day you realize, hey, I actually didn't think of this person whole day. Or at the end of the day, if you're journaling and you realize, I usually journal and say something that I would have said to this person, but they weren't even on my mind today. And that's progress. So it's not always a bad thing to forget someone existed, especially if that person was toxic for who you were. Because I do know a lot of people who I'm glad I kind of just phased out of my life because they were never a positive influence. And that's a very hard realization to come through, because you always want to see the sunshine and roses and all the beautiful things. But sometimes when the rose-tinted glasses falls off, you realize those flags that you enjoyed looking at are actually red flags. And the rose-tinted glasses just ruined it. So you never know. Kind of one of those couldn't see the forest for the tree kind of vibes. This is getting a turn for the worst again, so I'm kind of just going to try and bring it back up. So this person being constantly part of your life, not the end of the world, especially once you get over it. But one thing Taylor says in the song is, you taught me some hard lessons, which I think is what we can take away from anything and everything in life. What did this habit, good or bad, teach you? What did this book teach you? What did this movie teach you? What did another person teach you in life? I don't know if I mentioned this, but I went off on a tangent to a cousin of mine. And I was just in such a vibe that day. I don't know why. I just felt I needed to express myself. And I sent her this long text message of just thanking her for being the person she is and for inspiring me and for being such a good example. And I was like in tears, and it was just the whole thing. And she was just like, oh, thank you. And she responded so nicely. But I think the point of that was she had taught me lessons, and I just wanted to thank her for that. And we were never particularly close, especially because we do have a hell of an age gap. For her sake, I'm not going to mention it. But we do. Anyone in your life is someone you can learn from. I mean, I have people in my life who are no longer in my life, but I'm grateful to them because they taught me one thing or another. And that is the one thing I will always be grateful for. Find the lesson, because that will definitely make you stronger. Even if it's like the example of binging TV. It's a bad habit, yes, but the entertainment and the release it brought you was a positive lesson. So take that lesson and use it. So say, instead of binging 5 or 6 episodes or sitting for an hour and watching something, I'm going to cut it to half. I'm going to watch a smaller thing, something funny, just 1 or 2 episodes instead of 5, and the rest of the time I'm going to do something positive. So figure that out, find a way to apply it to you, and find the lesson. Because when we look at it, firstly, there's always a lesson that can be taken from anything. And 2, when it comes to things like habits or people, getting rid of the bad ones and replacing them with better ones, that's always a good idea. And sometimes you don't even need to replace it, you just need to maybe make it aware of what it's doing. So sometimes just having a conversation with someone and being like, look, I'm not liking the way you say this when I say this. And sometimes they don't even realize they're doing it. And that could actually change them for the better, and that can be their lesson that they learned from you. Positivity. Think about that. How are our lessons learned? And apply that to your own life. Because sometimes it takes a simple conversation to change so many things. Because you can't just pretend that things didn't happen. You can't pretend that this friend said something that didn't hurt you and just move on and then they do it again and you pretend. Like, it's not gonna solve anything. That brings us to the end of this one. I felt very weird about this episode, so we'll see. The overall lesson from this podcast was figure out from last week's episode how far you've come, take stock of it, and try and figure out how to move forward in a positive way and using the lessons you've learned. Because eventually you'll get into such new habits and be in a better place that you'll actually forget the negative stuff even happened. And that can actually be an incredible feeling, especially if you just keep on trying to move forward and improve yourself. Like I said in the episode, the song of the week is I Forgot That You Existed by Taylor Swift off the Lover album. I'm quite sure it's the Lover album. It's a really good one. I'm hella impressed with it. There's another song called The Man, but that's neither here nor there. I highly recommend listening to that song because it's so good. She apparently came out with a new album, or is going to. I'm not sure at this point in time. It's weird. Like I said, I'm recording this in advance, so I'm not sure where we're sitting with released and unreleased music. But Rihanna needs to release her new album. Like, seriously, come on. Just release it already. That is it from me. Thank you for everything. I hope you enjoyed listening to this ramble. It was very all over the place, but I hope it made sense. That's all from me. Have a good one. Love you. Bye.